Hi, I'm Garry Trudeau. I'm I write and I draw a comic strip called Doonesbury, and I'm now in my 50th year of syndication. And for that reason, I had a very large project dropped in my lap earlier this year, and for that distraction, I'm grateful. It's good to get up in the morning and have something that actually needs to get done. In this case, it was a 50th anniversary anthology. Now, I've done them in the past, and we did one for the 40th anniversary. And the original creative and commercial problem is, how do you respond to a 50th anniversary without doing a massive reiteration of what we had already done in previous volumes, particularly at the 40th, which contained only about 3,000 of the 15,000 strips I'd done by that point. And our solution to this problem was to put the complete run on a flash drive, with the understanding that that would probably only work as a gift item for core Doonesbury nerds and those who love them. But it did seem like an original solution to the problem. And we, of course, had to figure out how to make a 3-inch portable archive desirable. And we settled on a clamshell box with supplemental items, lanyard, a 216-page user manual, a year-by-year guide of contents, and a poster. Anyway, to pull this off, we had to do a very deep dive to log everything that was in the archives, which was an experience. Many of the strips I just didn't remember. They never made it out of my short-term memory at the time into the vault. But at one point, my editor and I were up to 2009, as we were moving forward chronologically. And he sent me an email saying that he thought he'd found the perfect strip. Well, that certainly piqued my curiosity, because I was unaware of ever having pulled off the perfect strip. It's just not possible. I'm in a very deadline-driven business. And even though the goal is a kind of steady excellence, that's largely aspirational for me because of the time constraints. I usually have to go with good enough. So my strip on most days is what good enough looks like. There are no do-overs, no revisions, no 2.0. Whatever's on the drawing board at 4 p.m. Friday afternoon has to be shipped. So I was very curious as to what my editor, David Stanford, could possibly think was perfect. So I checked out the strip, printed it out, and sure enough, it's not perfect, but there is a lot going on in it. And I thought maybe I would deconstruct it for you to illustrate how these tiny bits of story arc get put together. First, a little backstory. The 3 characters in the first panel of this particular daily are Leo, who is a veteran, an Army specialist who was blown up in Iraq and received a traumatic brain injury. Then there's BD, the foundational character of Doonesbury, who's been there for the full run. And then there's Leo's mother, Mrs. DeLuca. Now, Mrs. DeLuca, while her son was in Iraq, lost her house during the financial crisis of 2008, and they now live in a trailer. So Leo is recovering from his TBI, the main symptom of which, well, he's lost sight in one eye, but the most serious injury is he now has aphasia, which gives him real processing issues when he tries to express himself. He thinks clearly, he knows what he wants to say, but the people who care about him don't always get it, and they have to be patient waiting for him to get around to saying it. this is actually, as tragic as that setup is, it's actually a good scenario if handled properly for comedy, because you have two characters but three voices. You have the voice in Leo's head, you have what actually comes out of his mouth, and then you have all the misunderstanding of the person he's in dialogue with. So it's given me a lot of rich material to work with. So that's in the first panel. Typically what you'll see is exposition. Just to remind the reader where the reader was the previous day, if it's part of an overall story arc, or to give them a new piece of information, or if it's from the real world, that's where a fact will go. If I'm doing something political and I want people to understand the premise, the reader knows through experience that in the first panel, they may get information that is more or less correct, true, and that anything that follows may be a riff on it or a distortion of it or a point of view on it. But you try not to throw in the first panel stuff that you've just made up from scratch, unless it's clearly of the world of the strip. So in this first panel, Leo is explaining to BD, who was his commanding officer at one point and who has come to visit to see how he's doing. He has fallen in love, maybe too strong. He has an affection for this girl he's met on Facebook named Alex. Well, it turns out Alex is Alex Doonesbury, Mike's daughter, and because you can do this in fiction, make these improbable coincidences. This is, of course, Mike Doonesbury, BD's oldest friend. So, so Leo is explaining to his mother that BD already knows his girlfriend he's never even met, Alex. And he says, Mom, Lou knows Alex. Well, Lou is what Leo says in place of lieutenant. He can't get the whole word lieutenant out, but by now we know that Lou means lieutenant. And his mother says, you're kidding. How is that possible? And in the second panel, you're now moving forward in the story. You've already set it up, and now you're moving forward. Leo says he family friend, pure, Sarah, and he struggles with what he means by Sarah, and he keeps repeating it. In the third panel, Sarah, building up a little suspense, a little tension. His mother patiently says, take your time, Leo. And in the last panel, he gets it out, serendipity. And BD responds, good work, bud, but it's not a word. And his mother says, try again, honey. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. First of all, there's two beats. There's that unexpected word, serendipity. Unexpected because we are led to believe that Leo barely made it out of high school, and he's just a guy who's a headbanger, and it's just not the kind of word you would expect him to use. So that's a bit of a surprise, and surprise is always the hinge on which comedy swings. And then there's this two-part coda that follows, where the other two characters are lovingly patronizing Leo, unaware, of course, that serendipity is a real word, whereas they think he just made it up. So what's problematic about the strip? I mean, why is on what level does this not work? Well, first there's a problem in that there's a technical issue. In the fourth panel, you see the word serendipity is hyphenated in two places. Hyphens are a real problem in a comic strip. They slow down the eye because the brain has to assemble the words from parts. That's never good, but especially not on a punchline. So what I should have done and didn't do in my hurry was figure out a way to extend that word across the top And it may well be I did try, but I couldn't come up with a way to position it elegantly with the other two balloons so that you read them in sequence properly. So that's a problem. That's one of the things that I wish I'd been able to solve at the time. But that's just a technical issue. The other thing that's a bit of a problem is you have to remember that this is a comic strip. It's written for a vast popular audience. So this strip, particular strip, is a total bust to the reader who isn't familiar with the word serendipity, which is not a word commonly used in the public square. It can be very alienating to a reader if they don't get a strip. It's one thing to get it and then decide, well, that's not very funny. That would be on me. My job is to make it funny. But it's another thing to not get it and feel that it's due to your own lack of understanding of the situation. But I really couldn't write a joke to save my life. This is the kind of humor that I've always responded to. I grew up watching Robert Altman movies, and the first time I saw MASH in a sneak preview when I was in college blew me away. So wait a minute, everybody's interrupting everybody else, and this is hilarious, but I'm not sure why. And so I started thinking, well, maybe there's a different way to write dialogue. Maybe there's a way that's closer to the way. We don't tell jokes to each other in real life. We don't. But we say things that are very funny, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. So that's what I'm trying to capture.